Have you ever wondered how a small mountain nation defended its identity through centuries of battles, faced empires, and still found the strength to choose peace over war? The story of Nepal's military journey isn't just about soldiers and weapons, it's about the heart of a nation that refused to be broken. Nepal's early military history is deeply tied to its unification process, which began in the mid-18th century under the leadership of King Prithvi Narayan Shah. At that time, Nepal was not a single unified country, but a collection of many small kingdoms and principalities, often at odds with each other. Prithvi Narayan Shah envisioned a strong and unified Nepal that could resist foreign domination and protect its cultural identity. To achieve this, he began a series of military campaigns aimed at bringing these fragmented states under one rule. These campaigns were not simple battles, but involved strategic planning, long marches through rugged terrain, and fierce resistance from local rulers. Despite the hardships, his army, composed of brave and disciplined fighters, succeeded in capturing key locations such as Kathmandu, Lalitpur, and Bok. The successful unification brought pride and identity to the people of Nepal and laid the foundation for a centralized state. As Nepal expanded its borders westward and eastward, it came into contact and sometimes conflict with neighboring powers like Tibet and China. The Gurkhas army, known for its fearlessness and commitment, pushed deep into territories that challenged their sovereignty. However, these military moves also triggered concern from larger empires, especially the British East India Company. In India, the expansionist vision, though ambitious and driven by patriotic fervor, also brought Nepal face to face with powerful enemies. This set the stage for future confrontations, most notably with the British, which would test the limits of Nepal's military strength. Yet during this early phase, the military campaigns were seen as a necessary path to self-determination and defense against colonial influence. The legacy of this era still echoes in Nepal's national identity and pride, as many Nepalese look back on these conquests as the birth of a unified, resilient nation. The Anglo-Nepalese War, which took place from 1814 to 1816, was a defining conflict between the Gurkha Kingdom of Nepal and the British East India Company. The roots of the war lay in territorial disputes and growing tensions over border regions. As Nepal expanded westward and southward under its unification campaign, it began to occupy areas like Kumaon and Garhwal, which were of interest to the British. This territorial overlap and frequent border skirmishes eventually led the British to declare war. The British believed their well-equipped and organized army would easily defeat the Gurkhas, but they underestimated the fierce resistance of Nepalese soldiers, who used the rugged terrain and guerrilla tactics to their advantage. The war was marked by intense battles in hilly regions such as Lapani, where Gurkha commander Balbhadra Kunwar and his small force held out heroically against a far larger British army. Stories of Nepalese bravery in such battles spread even among the British ranks, earning deep respect for their fighting spirit. Despite their courage, Nepalese forces faced a shortage of modern weapons and resources, making it difficult to sustain a prolonged war. The British, adapting their strategies and reinforcing their troops, gradually gained ground. After 2 years of bloody confrontations, Nepal was compelled to sign the Sugoli Treaty in 1816. The treaty had severe consequences. For Nepal, the country lost a large portion of its territory, including Sikkim, Kumaon, Garhwal, and parts of the Terai. Additionally, the treaty allowed the British to station a resident in Kathmandu, effectively reducing Nepal's independence in foreign affairs. Although Nepal remained sovereign and avoided colonization, the war left a lasting impact on its political and territorial structure. However, the courage displayed by the Gurkhas during the war later opened the door for their recruitment into the British Army, beginning a new chapter in Nepal's military legacy. The legacy of the Gurkhas is one of the most remarkable aspects of Nepal's military history. Originating from the hill regions of Nepal, the Gurkhas became widely known for their exceptional bravery, discipline, and loyalty. This reputation was first solidified during the Anglo-Nepalese War, when British officers and soldiers were deeply impressed by the courage and endurance of the Nepalese fighters. Despite being on opposing sides, the British saw in them a unique warrior spirit that stood out even in defeat. After the war, as part of the political relationship that followed the Sugarli Treaty, the British began recruiting Gurkhas into their army, a practice that would continue for centuries. The Gurkhas became an elite force in the British Army, known for their signature weapon, the curved kukri knife, and their fearless combat style. They fought in numerous conflicts around the world, including both world wars, where their valor was again widely recognized. Thousands of Gurkhas served on distant battlefields in Europe, Africa, and Asia, often under harsh and dangerous conditions. Their contributions earned them high honors, including many Victoria Crosses, the highest military decoration awarded for valor in the British system. Their service was not only military, it also acted as a cultural bridge between Nepal and the rest of the world. The Indian Army, after the end of British colonial rule, also continued to recruit Gurkhas, creating another avenue for Nepalese youth to serve abroad. The Gurkhas came to symbolize a unique blend of national pride and international recognition. Their presence in foreign armies also brought economic support and respect to many Nepali communities. Over time, the image of the Gurkha evolved from simply being a soldier to being a national hero, a symbol of courage, and a living link to Nepal's martial traditions and international military reputation. The Nepalese Civil War, also known as the Maoist insurgency, began in 1996 and lasted for a decade, causing deep scars on the country's political and social fabric. The conflict was initiated by the Communist Party of Nepal Maoist, which launched a violent movement to overthrow the monarchy and establish a People's Republic. The Maoists claimed that the monarchy and political elites were ignoring the needs of rural populations, marginalized communities, and the poor. Their ideology drew from Mao Zedong's principles, advocating for armed revolution to dismantle the old system. The war quickly spread from remote western districts to other parts of the country, with attacks on government offices, police posts, and infrastructure. The Royal Nepalese Army, initially uninvolved in the conflict, was later deployed when the situation escalated. The war intensified after 2001, especially following the royal massacre, in which King Birendra and most of the royal family were killed. King Gyanendra assumed the throne and took a more direct role in fighting the insurgency, suspending democratic institutions and declaring emergency rule. The Maoists, on the other hand, established parallel administrations in rural areas, often functioning as shadow governments. Both sides were accused of severe human rights abuses, including disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and the use of child soldiers. The conflict led to the deaths of more than 17,000 people and displaced thousands more. The psychological and economic toll was immense, especially in underdeveloped regions. International pressure and internal exhaustion finally led to peace talks in 2006. The signing of the Comprehensive Peace Accord marked the end of hostilities. It paved the way for the abolition of the monarchy and the transformation of Nepal into a federal democratic republic. Though the war ended officially, its aftermath continues to shape the nation's political dynamics and social structure. The Royal Nepalese Army played a central role throughout Nepal's military history, particularly during times of both external threats and internal unrest. In earlier centuries, the army was the backbone of Nepal's expansion under kings like Prithvi Narayan Shah. Their ability to navigate harsh terrain and fight in difficult conditions made them a formidable force in the region. During the Anglo-Nepalese War, although ultimately outmatched by the British, the army's bravery laid the foundation for the future reputation of Nepalese soldiers, especially the Gurkhas. In modern times, the army's role expanded beyond defending borders to dealing with complex internal security challenges. During the Maoist Civil War, from 1996 to 2006, the Royal Nepalese Army was initially kept on the sidelines while the police dealt with the insurgency. However, as the conflict escalated and the Maoists began launching coordinated attacks on government installations, the military was fully mobilized. Under royal command, the army conducted major counterinsurgency operations across the country. Their goal was to eliminate rebel strongholds, secure infrastructure, and maintain state authority in regions slipping into rebel control. As the war intensified, the military received foreign support in the form of training, equipment, and intelligence, especially from India, the United States, and the United Kingdom. The army's involvement was not without controversy. Both the Maoists and the Royal Nepalese Army were accused of widespread human rights violations, including torture, forced disappearances, and civilian casualties. These actions led to growing demands for accountability and justice after the war ended. Despite the criticism, many in Nepal still viewed the army as a symbol of unity and national strength. Following the peace agreement in 2006 and the eventual abolition of the monarchy, the army underwent significant restructuring to align itself with democratic values and civilian oversight, while continuing to play a key role in national stability. After a decade of violent conflict, Nepal began its transition toward peace and democracy with the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Accord in 2006. This agreement between the government and the Maoist rebels marked the formal end of the civil war, and opened the door for a complete transformation of the country's political system. One of the most significant changes was the gradual abolition of the Panchrazolde monarchy and the establishment of a secular federal democratic republic. The peace process involved integrating former Maoist combatants into society, some into the National Army, and others into civilian life. This transition was delicate and required careful negotiation to avoid reigniting tensions. The Nepalese army also had to undergo changes. No longer under direct royal control, the army became subject to democratic oversight. With a focus on restructuring its command system and increasing transparency, the new constitution, promulgated in 2015, reinforced civilian control over the military and emphasized human rights and rule of law. The army also began to engage more in non-combat roles such as disaster response, peacekeeping missions abroad, and development assistance within Nepal. Politically, Nepal moved toward inclusive governance by holding democratic elections and forming a constituent assembly to draft a new constitution. Marginalized groups such as women, indigenous communities, and former untouchables, Dalits, gained greater recognition and rights in the new system, while challenges persisted such as political instability, regional demands for autonomy, and economic difficulties. The overall direction was toward democratic values and peaceful coexistence. The journey from war to peace was neither quick nor easy, but it represented a collective desire among Nepali people to build a more just and representative society. The post-war era allowed for open political debate, freedom of expression, and a growing sense of national identity shaped by shared struggles and aspirations for lasting peace. The story of Nepal's military journey is one of courage, sacrifice, and transformation. From the early days of unification, through fierce battles and expansion, to the painful losses of territorial wars and the bravery of the Gurkhas on global battlefields, Nepal's military legacy has always been rooted in resilience. The decade-long civil war tested the strength of the nation from within, challenging its institutions, people, and spirit. Yet from the ashes of that conflict rose a new vision, one built not on the force of arms alone, but on dialogue, democracy, and the will of the people. Today, Nepal stands not just as a nation shaped by conflict, but as one striving toward peace, justice, and unity. It is a powerful reminder that even through the hardest times, hope can survive, and a better future can be built.